Well, hello, good evening, and welcome. This is Debbie Georgatos. Thanks so very much for tuning in to Ladies Can We Talk. Folks, if anyone has missed it, in this most recent week, in this GOP primary, we have apparently gotten to the point we have a presumptive GOP nominee, Donald Trump. And I want to spend a couple segments talking tonight about what that means for the election cycle, what that means for America, and what you do when you're an active, passionate conservative trying to speak up for America. You know, this show, Ladies Can We Talk, is always about the idea of trying to relearn or learn again why America is exceptional and to encourage people to embrace the exceptional identity of America. Well, one of the reasons I've talked about in America why our country is exceptional, and it's among the many reasons, but we set up a system to allow the people to govern themselves. We have elections where we actually choose the people who are then making the laws, and this is at the federal level and the state level. So in this GOP primary, we started out with 17 candidates running for the GOP to become the nominee for the GOP, and then there was one. We're down to apparently one now, and this most recent week when Texas Senator Ted Cruz, and then Ohio Governor John Kasich dropped out. And so we're down with Ted Cruz. I want to spend this segment, this my Speak Up for America segment, to talk about a real focus on why any of us are involved in political activity. And, it's easy. I think some people get in politics and they get passionate because, and I have the 3 P words I want to talk about. Some are simply passionate about a person. They simply love a certain candidate or a family member or someone they've always admired. So they latch on to a person. Some people are all about the party. Whatever, if you're Republican, whatever the GOP stands for, or whoever's a nominee, that's my guy, I'm going with that guy. And I think the highest level thinkers are involved in politics due to principles, actual ideas. And what I try to talk about in the show and what will really perpetuate America's greatness for centuries to come is people grasping the principles that are underlying America and insisting to the best of our ability to keep those principles in place. Well, there's one that's kind of an unspoken principle, but I want to mention something that happened in this primary cycle that is just a deeply troubling thing. Now, didn't just, wake up yesterday, didn't just fall off the turnip truck. I understand there's been dishonesty and deception in politics since time began. But this particular election cycle had one aspect that was very, very troubling. And that was, and I'll back up and tell you, you should, if you haven't done it, read a little story that came out this week, and it's been talked about on the internet a lot, about the famous baseball player Ty Cobb. I remember reading about him as a child. He was this great, fabulous baseball player. But then after he died, and he had all these great stories about things about his life, but it's not relevant here. After he passed on, he had all these great records, but someone wrote a novel about him and accused him of being racist, having attacked black people and beat them up, having sharpened the cleats on the bottom of his shoes so that he would deliberately tear up the hands of people as he was sliding in. He was just painted as evil, awful guy. And I remember reading about that, not reading the book, but reading about Ty Cobb, and he was derided for decades until a most recent biography uncovered that all of that was a lie. For whatever reason the biography had to say about Ty Cobb, he had tried to destroy this man's reputation. And the reason to talk about this tonight is a lie told over and over and over and over sinks into the American people as the truth unless it is refuted. So back to our GOP election cycle. This time we had who's apparently is the presumptive nominee, Donald Trump, with a close ally who runs the National Enquirer newspaper that printed lie after lie after lie after lie after lie about Donald Trump's opponents. Now, as I say, people lie in politics. It's happened since the beginning of time. But it was especially egregious in this election cycle, and something I don't think conservatives should take lightly. Because what happened, the lies intended, for example, early on in the primary, when it appeared that Dr. Ben Carson might be getting ahead of Donald Trump, the National Enquirer ran some ridiculous story about his having been a horrible doctor and having, in some way hurt someone and destroyed their life through botched surgery. Complete fabrication, just made it up. But in the most recent time, when this was a real race coming down to Donald Trump or Senator Ted Cruz, and Senator Ted Cruz was gaining ground, the National Enquirer ran story after story about just complete lies, things about he had affairs, not true, and no proof, never any proof, but they just ran it. And then they had the stories that related to apparently this ridiculous story that Ted Cruz's dad, Rafael Cruz, is somehow connected to the JFK assassination and to Lee Harvey Oswald. And I mention all this to say this. What happened after those stories ran was that not only did Donald Trump repeat them and throw them out and talk to people as though they were real, but he, after Senator Cruz got out of the race, Donald Trump acknowledged, yeah, I knew it wasn't really true. I just said it anyway. Folks, this is a problem if we're latched on to a person, Donald Trump, and look at that conduct and decide it's okay because somehow we like him so much. If you're just latched on to a person, you're accepting something pretty darn bad. We need to be in politics to talk about the principles underlying America, the greatness and goodness of America, and we need to continue as conservatives to fight, not for a person, not for the GOP, but for the principles that made America great. When you come back after the break, we're going to talk about how much power women have in this election cycle to get our country back on track. Debbie Georgatos, ladies, can we talk? Come back after the break.